This program is supported by Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant, kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International.
Welcome to the program. Here are the top stories tonight.
Scores of deaths in Canada's Vancouver area are likely linked to a grueling heat wave, according to authorities, as the country recorded its highest ever temperature amid scorching conditions that extended to the U.S. Pacific Northwest.
For 14 days.
Thailand prepares to reopen the holiday hotspot of Phuket to tourists quarantine-free, even as the country registers its highest single-day death toll from COVID-19.
Heavy rain, giant hailstones, and gale-force winds lashed parts of Germany, Switzerland, and France on Monday and Tuesday, causing widespread flooding and tearing off part of the roof of an opera house.
And authorities said a tremor hit western Cuba on Tuesday morning, prompting the evacuation of several buildings, but with no damage or injuries reported.
Scores of deaths in Canada's Vancouver area are likely linked to a grueling heat wave that, according to authorities, as the country recorded its highest ever temperature amid scorching conditions that extended to the U.S. Pacific Northwest. Take a look.
I've been here since 2006, so 15 years almost on the dot. And in the time that I've been here, I've seen some pretty hot days, which are able to escape the heat. But not to the scale that it's had now. It's that some people have died due to the heat wave here in BC, which is tremendously sad. And I feel for those people, whether it be the elderly demographic or people who live on the downtown east side of Vancouver.
We're just here basically bringing our dogs for a walk. They're not really cooperating. It's very, very hot.
Oh my gosh, the heat is crazy at the moment, and there's only one way to stay cool, which is by eating a lot of ice cream.
At least 134 people have died suddenly since Friday in the Vancouver area, according to figures released by the City Police Department and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Canada set a new all-time high temperature record for a third day in a row Tuesday, reaching 121 degrees Fahrenheit or 49.5 degrees Celsius in Lytton, British Columbia, about 155 miles east of Vancouver, according to the country's Weather Service Environment Canada. Other local municipalities have said they too have responded to many sudden death calls, but have yet to release the tolls. Some Vancouver locals said they had never experienced such temperatures before. Climate change is causing record-setting temperatures to become more frequent. Globally, the decade to 2019 was the hottest recorded, and the 5 hottest years have all occurred within the last 5 years. The scorching heat stretching from the U.S. state of Oregon to Canada's Arctic territories has been blamed on a high-pressure ridge trapping warm air in the region called the heat dome.
Now, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, acknowledged that the Taal Volcanic Smog, or VOG, has reached Metro Manila and nearby provinces, aside from human activities that contributed to the haze observed in these areas. On Tuesday, PHIVOLCS released a statement saying the haze in Metro Manila was not from Taal Volcano. On Wednesday, however, it said that based on open satellite data information information for volcanic sulfur dioxide, or SO2, it was learned that plumes have actually spread over Batangas, Laguna, Cavite, Rizal, Bulacan, Pampanga, Bataan, Zambales, and the National Capital Region. Satellite detection on June 29 showed an even larger coverage of Luzon, it added. In view of the scientific data from the above satellite platforms, the DOST FIVO stands to acknowledge evidence of the wider extent that volcanic SO2 have actually spread over the NCR and adjoining provinces, and gives credence to the many observations that the public have communicated, according to FIVOX. FIVOX Director Renato Solidum Jr. noted the timing of the occurrence of smog in Metro Manila and when the volcano. The pollution in Metro Manila due to vehicle emissions and other human activities was worsened by the presence of warmer air as a result of temperature inversion June 26 and ended June 30th based on the Weather Bureau's record. The official added the air quality in NCR has worsened starting June 26, even though there was no SO2 dispersion over Metro Manila as seen in satellite images.
Meanwhile, authorities said a tremor hit western Cuba on Tuesday morning, prompting the evacuation of several buildings, but with no damage or injuries reported. Take a look.
Fractura de cadera. Y bueno, todo empezó a temblar, todo empezó a caerse dentro del salón. Expectativa es que había sucedido, pero bueno, ya cuando nos dimos cuenta que había ocurrido a mitad del acto quirúrgico y...
Y primeras en mi vida que yo veo esto. Es un momento que no se... Mi hermana en el quirófano, yo desesperada. Los médicos se portaron...
Now, the quake, which was felt in Havana, saw several high-rises evacuate, urging people to remain calm. Reported that a 4.7 recorded at a depth of 10 kilometers Del Rio province, some 70 kilometers west of Havana. Service said the magnitude was 5, the fourth quake to hit the island this year. A major 7th region back in January last year, triggering a brief tsunami alert and forcing evacuations in Havana and Miami, but without any casualties.
In other news, heavy rain, giant hailstones, and gale force winds lashed parts of Germany, Switzerland, and France on Monday and Tuesday, and tearing off part of the and rail services were completely suspended in and around the German city of Stuttgart. Police and rail operator Deutsches across the southern states of Rhineland, Palatinate, and Baden-Württemberg reported hundreds of calls to deal with flooded cellars, fallen trees, landslides in Notwell in the Swiss canton of Lucerne. The Swiss news agency reported giant hailstones up to in the canton of Freiburg. The police and fire brigade were called 300 times, including to rescue a class of 16 children, and 6 of the children and 1 adult were taken to hospital. In the German-speaking Swiss cantons, including a cyclist who suffered head injuries from hail. In France, several dozen fell in the southeastern Vosges region on Tuesday, prompting the unseasonal use of snow shovels and snow plows. The Meteo France Weather Service issued a storm warning for the whole of the northeast of the country.
Back to the U.S., President Joe Biden will visit the site of a deadly apartment building collapse in southern Florida later this week, according to the White House, as rescuers scour the wreckage in an increasingly desperate search for survivors. Take a look.
Maybe as early as Thursday.
Now, a 12-story oceanfront condominium in Surfside, a neighborhood near Miami, pancaked into rubble in the early hours of Thursday last week. 12 expected to rise as hope dwindles for the nearly unaccounted for. The White House said the president would visit the site with First Lady Jill Biden on Thursday. Local officials have everything they need for the rescue effort. Champlain Tower South that remained awakened around 1:30 a.m. Thursday by what sounded like cracks of thunder that shook their rooms. Authorities have faced mounting anger in the days since the disaster from friends and family. News of loved ones feared trapped beneath the smoking wreckage. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava said Tuesday evening that unfortunately, one additional victim was recovered, increasing the death toll to 12 now. Israeli and Mexican engineers and search and rescue specialists have joined an army of American workers at the scene, backed by cranes and sniffer dogs.
In another tragedy, at least 6 people died and several more missing after a passenger ferry sank off the coast of Bali, according to Indonesian authorities, in the latest maritime accident to hit the archipelago. Authorities said the KMP Yunisi had 53 passengers and crew aboard a trip from East Java to Holiday Island when the accident happened as the ferry tried to dock. Some 44 people were rescued as the vessel sank, while another 6 died in the accident, with 3 more missing, they said. The cause of the accident was not immediately clear. Marine accidents are common in Indonesia, an archipelago of more than 17,000 islands where many use ferries and other boats to travel despite poor safety standards. In 2019, 21 people died when an overloaded ferry sank in rough seas of Java's north coast. A year earlier, about 160 people drowned when a ferry sank into the depths of one of the world's deepest lakes on Sumatra Island. And more than 300 people are estimated to have drowned in 2009 when a ferry sank between Sulawesi and Borneo.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Samahan sina Wedge Kujamat,
itong balitang panggising sa ulo ng mga balita.
Apple David,
Sa 60 katao ang isinugod sa ospital.
TV Publico,
Economic sabotage ang mga tiwaling negosyante.
at Cristel Fesalbon
Pagpresyo ng gulay, makakausap natin
para iatid sa inyo ang mga kaganapan at pangyayari sa bansa at sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Mga napapanahong isyu ng bayan. May balitang sports, entertainment at iba pang kaalaman. Simula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng umaga sa paborito nyong morning show, Pambansang Almusal, dito sa Net 25.
Pambansang Almusal.
Welcome back. The Thai government is preparing to celebrate the country's reopening to foreign tourists this week. And the island of Phuket is a pilot program for the reboot of the tourism industry. Here's Esther Odanga joining us live. Hello, Esther.
Good evening, Alma, CJ. Yes, Thailand prepared Wednesday to reopen the holiday hotspot of Phuket to tourists quarantine-free, even as the country registered its highest single-day death toll from COVID-19. To prepare for the reopening, 2/3 of Phuket's population have been inoculated, but there will be restrictions in place for those choosing Phuket for their holiday. Let's listen in.
To stay in Phuket for 14 days, that is one of the restrictions that can make people travel less, and also to make sure that all the tourists are still safe. So we must check COVID during those days. We must check for 3 times. That is quite a lot and quite costly. So that's the major restriction. There are hotels that have been under closure for over a year. I think 85 up to 90% of those hotels. There are only 10% hotels that can be still up and running.
High hopes have been pinned on the so-called Phuket sandbox, a model that will allow vaccinated travelers to visit without a quarantine period in an effort to revive Thailand's battered tourism industry. But the lead up to its July 1 launch has been plagued with uncertainty amid delays to government approval. Thailand has been trying to contain a third wave of coronavirus by imposing restrictions in the capital Bangkok and its suburbs, which have been the Alpha and Delta variants spreading. Wednesday saw the kingdom's highest single death toll yet of 53. However, authorities say the Phuket sandbox will go ahead as planned. About 250 passengers are scheduled to land on the island Thursday on 4 flights, according to COVID-19 Task Force spokesman Tawisin Wissanuyoti. The return of tourists will bring welcome relief for businesses. Thailand usually welcomes about 40 million tourists every year, and about 18% of the country's GDP comes from the sector. But for over a year, Phuket's pristine sandy beaches have been unusually quiet, and more than 80% of hotels have been shuttered. As said earlier, visitors will have to stay on the island for 14 days if they wish to travel elsewhere in Thailand, and they must take 3 COVID tests during that period. The number of COVID-19 cases in Phuket also cannot exceed 90 in 1 week. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to your update on the reopening of Phuket and the Thailand tourism sector. Thank you very much for your time, Esther.
Yes, Alma, we're excited to give updates too. Reporting live from Thailand, this is Esther Odanga. We live in interesting times.
To Australia now, where the outback town of Alice Springs became the latest population center to lock down today as anger mounts over the country's low coronavirus vaccine rollout. The usually busy streets of Sydney, Brisbane, Perth and Darwin have fallen quiet, with millions of Australians under stay-at-home orders as the country battles multiple small outbreaks of the highly contagious Delta variant. Australia relied heavily on border closures and mandatory hotel quarantine for overseas arrivals to curb the spread of the virus, but has recently struggled to contain the strain, which first emerged in India. Alice Springs in the central Australian desert was the latest place ordered to lock down as an extreme precautionary measure designed to protect a large indigenous population feared more vulnerable to COVID-19, according to a state official. The 72-hour restrictions came after it was revealed a man linked to a cluster at a nearby gold mine spent several hours at the local airport. Northern Territory Chief Minister Michael Gunner said the man was probably not infectious, but we cannot take any chances.
Now, back here in the country, the Philippines' cumulative case fatality rate remains low at 1.7%, according to Malacanang today, as the country emerged as a COVID-19 hotspot in the Western Pacific. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque attributed the low COVID-19 case fatality rate to medical frontliners' efforts in treating coronavirus-infected individuals. Take a look.
Our case fatality rate has been consistent at 1.7, which is below the worldwide average of about 2.1. And that is why continuously, palagi natin pinasasalamatan natin ang ating mga medical frontliners, kasi clearly, as far as treatment is concerned, we seem to be ahead of the rest of the world, no? Which explains our below average mortality rate of 1.7. Of course, ang ideal is wala nang mamamatay, at kaya nga po nagbabakuna tayo. Dahil ang bakuna po, bagamat ito ay hindi garantiya na hindi na kayo magko-COVID, ito po ay garantiya naman na hindi kayo magkakasakit ng seryoso o hindi kayo mamamatay dahil sa COVID. So kung gusto po nating zero mortality, magpapakuna na po lahat.
Now, Secretary Roque made these remarks after the Philippines continues to lead the Western Pacific region in terms of total COVID infections, daily cases, and deaths. The country has 50,037 active COVID cases, 1,333,464 recoveries, and 24,557 deaths. The total COVID deaths registered on Tuesday are equivalent to 1.74% case fatality rate. Secretary Roque said the country is ahead of the rest of the world in terms of COVID treatment.
Staying here in the Philippines, where the country has released a list of green countries and jurisdictions which refer to places whose COVID-19 vaccinations will qualify passengers to a shorter quarantine period upon arrival in the Philippines. Here's again a presidential spokesperson, Harry Roque, naming 57 countries and jurisdictions that will be given green lane policy for arriving passengers. Take a look.
Naglabas ngayong araw at 30 ng Hunyo 2021 ang inyong IATF ng listahan na tinatawag na green countries at jurisdictions. Kasama rito ang mga bansang Albania, American Samoa, Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, Australia, Benin, Belize, the British Virgin Islands, Brunei, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cayman Islands, Chad, China, Côte d'Ivoire, Eswatini, Falkland Islands, French Polynesia, Gambia, Ghana, Greenland, Grenada, Hong Kong, Iceland, Isle of Man, Israel, Laos, Liberia, Malawi, Malta, Marshall Islands, Mauritius, Micronesia, Montserrat, Morocco, Mozambique, New Caledonia, New Zealand, Nigeria, Northern Mariana Islands, Palau, Rwanda, Sabah, St. Barthélemy, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Pierre and Miquelon, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Singapore, St. Eustatius, South Korea, Taiwan, Togo, Turks and Caicos Islands, UK, Vietnam at Zimbabwe. Napagdesisyonan din ng inyong IATF ng opsyon ng ipresenta ang Philippine Overseas Labor Office polo validations bilang proof of vaccination status ay exclusive lamang sa mga overseas Filipino workers. Magsisimulang tumanggap ang ating mga polo ng applications for validation simula July 5, 2021. Samantala, ang mga OFWs na makakapagpresenta ng International Certificates of Vaccination ay maaari nang makapag-avail ng green lanes simula bukas, July 1, 2021, provided na makakasunod sila sa mga requirements.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he was against mandatory vaccinations despite a surge in coronavirus infections in the country as well as sluggish inoculation rates. Take a look.
Вот и я в свое время говорил, как вы помните, о том, что обязательная вакцинация. Я не поддерживаю обязательную вакцинацию и продолжаю придерживаться этой же точки зрения.
However, he urged Russians to listen to specialists and get vaccinated as his country struggles to inoculate its population against coronavirus amid a surging third wave.
Meanwhile, demand for refilling oxygen cylinders has increased dramatically due to the COVID pandemic in Uganda. The Roofings plant previously refilled around 50 cylinders of oxygen per day, but now refills about 400 cylinders a day. Take a look.
During this time of COVID, especially the second lockdown, where it's about 2 weeks and a half now, the demand for oxygen has actually increased in the various hospitals, all the referral hospitals.
Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un replaced several senior officials after a crucial coronavirus incident. According to state media, the report released today, potentially signaling a breach in the country's epidemic defenses. Pyongyang closed its borders in January last year to try to protect itself against the virus that first emerged in neighboring China. It hasn't publicly confirmed any cases of the disease at any point, either in state media or in the test statistics it has disclosed to the World Health Organization. But analysts said the latest development was a clear indication there had been infections in the isolated north, which is under international sanctions for its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. Officials had neglected their duties and caused a crucial incident, creating a great crisis in ensuring the security of the state and safety of the people, and entailed grave consequences, Kim told a Politburo meeting, according to the state Korean Central News Agency. It didn't specify any details of what had happened.
In other news, EU ambassadors agreed on Wednesday to prolong wide-ranging economic sanctions imposed on Russia in 2014 for the annexation of Crimea and fueling the conflict in Ukraine, according to diplomats. The latest 6-month extension to the end of January, set to be formally signed off by foreign ministers meeting on July 12, comes as Brussels says ties with Moscow remain at their lowest point. The sanctions slapped on Russia in the wake of the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 target the country's key banking, energy, and defense sectors. The measures remain in place while a long-stalled peace plan for East Ukraine agreed between Moscow, Kyiv, Berlin, and Paris in 2015 fails to make any progress. Fighting rumbles on between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists, and the Kremlin ramped up tensions earlier this year by deploying tens of thousands of troops to its neighbor's border.
In other news, the Netherlands on Tuesday accused Russian fighter jets of aggressive behavior in an encounter with a Dutch warship in the Black Sea. The incident last Thursday involved the frigate HNMLS Evertsen, part of a carrier strike group, with the British destroyer HMS Defender, which itself purportedly came under Russian warning fire a day earlier. The Dutch Defense Ministry said Russian planes repeatedly harassed the Evertsen over a period of 5 hours when it was southeast of Russian-annexed Crimea, adding that they flew dangerously low and close by, performing feint attacks. Dutch Defense Minister said the Russian actions were irresponsible and that the Netherlands will address Russia about this. In a statement, the Russian Defense Ministry said that the Black Sea Fleet last Thursday scrambled Su-30 fighter jets and Su-24 bombers to prevent violation of the border of the territorial waters of the Russian Federation after the Evertsen began moving in the direction of the Kerch Strait. It said that the planes flew at a safe distance near the Netherlands Navy ship, which then immediately changed its course.
Now, Sajid Javid has been named Britain's new health secretary after Matt Hancock was forced to resign on Saturday following revelations he broke coronavirus rules by kissing his aide. Here's Patricia Rodriguez from our UK bureau with that story. Patricia.
UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock resigned on Saturday following revelations he broke government coronavirus restrictions. Let's listen in to his parting message.
I've been to see the Prime Minister to resign as Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. I understand the enormous sacrifices that everybody in this country has made, that you have made, and those of us who make these rules have got to stick by them, and that's why I've got to resign. I want to thank people for their incredible sacrifices and what they've done. Everybody working in the NHS, across social care, everyone involved in the vaccine program, and frankly, everybody in this country who has risen to the challenges that we've seen over this past 18 months. I'm very proud of what we've done to protect the NHS at the peak, to deliver that vaccine rollout, one of the fastest in the world. And I look forward to supporting the government and the Prime Minister from the backbenches to make sure that we can get out of this pandemic. We're so close to the end, and then build back better so that this country can fulfill its potential, which is so great. And I will do that with all of my heart.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he was sorry to receive Hancock's resignation and that he should be immensely proud of his service. His Downing Street office later said that Queen Elizabeth II had approved the appointment of Sajid Javid, a member of parliament, as his replacement. New Health Secretary Sajid Javid has already held two of the top jobs in government, serving as Finance Minister from 2019 to 2020 and Interior Minister in 2018. As one of 5 sons of Pakistani immigrant parents, he has served as a former Managing Director at Deutsche Bank. He has also previously worked as an aide to former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Sajid Javid has now arrived on Monday at the Department of Health and Social Care for the first time since his appointment. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Patricia Rodriguez. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Patricia, for your report. Eagle News will be back with more updates. Don't go away.
Protect yourself and loved ones. Use Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant that kills 500 strains of bacteria, fungi, and viruses such as coronavirus and other disease-causing microorganisms. Also potent against viruses in pets. It kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes. Dissolve 1 teaspoon in 1 liter of water. Apply on areas for disinfection or use it for misting. Protect Plus Gold.
Tawagin na natin ang pinakagwapo na pagkagwapo, ladies and gentlemen. Let us all welcome Victor Wood!
Nagustuhan nila Derek at Sir Orly yung performance nyo. Kaya sa next episode, mag-partner na kayo.
Record ka ng sarili mong album. Wala. Hindi papatok yung ganyan style.
Payagan nyo lang ako mag-record uli.
I'm sorry, my love, if I've broken your heart.
Si Arceli nga po pala, fiancé ko.
Hindi ka naman dapat kabahan eh.
To forgive me.
Kapag nakapag-ipon ako, papakasal na tayo.
Ihanda nyo na yung kontrata schedules. Ilalabas na natin to sa buong Pilipinas.
Let me kiss and hold you tight.
Kalahati lang ng TF ni Rico at ni Ray yung TF ko eh.
Kung sino ang mas sikat, yun ang mas may malaking talent fee.
Eh kung kasikatan lang ang pag-uusapan, masikat naman ako sa mga yan.
Noon yun, Victor. Pero hindi mo inilagaan.
Kaya kong bumangon kahit wala ka.
Welcome back. President Duterte today signed a law extending the availment period of the estate tax amnesty for 2 years. Republic Act 11569 amends RA 11213, or the Estate Amnesty Act, to extend the validity of the estate tax amnesty program. RA 11213, inked by President Duterte on February 14, 2019, grants taxpayers a one-time opportunity to settle their tax obligations through an estate amnesty program that gives reasonable tax relief to estates with outstanding estate tax liabilities. Section 6 of RA 11213 states that estate administrator, lawful heirs, or beneficiaries have 2 years or until June 15 this year to avail of the estate tax amnesty. Under RA 11569, the new deadline for the filing of estate tax amnesty returns was set on June 14, 2023. Now, those who avail of the estate tax amnesty enjoy immunity from the payment of estate taxes, civil, criminal, and administrative cases and penalties.
Now, in other news here in the Philippines, the president is looking forward to visiting Sri Lanka when the COVID-19 pandemic situation normalizes. This was Duterte's response to the invitation of Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to visit his country in a phone call on Monday, June 28, according to a press statement from the Office of the President. During the phone call, the two leaders renewed their shared commitment to further enhance cooperation as the two countries commemorate 60 years of diplomatic relations this year. Duterte also thanked the Sri Lankan government for its assistance in the repatriation of Filipinos amid the pandemic and for the safe return of Filipino seafarers in the Mount New Diamond that caught fire, or empty New Diamond that caught fire off the eastern coast of Sri Lanka in September last year. Reports showed that one Filipino crew member died in a boiler explosion, while another was injured after a fire broke out on the large oil tanker off the eastern coast of Sri Lanka. Rajapaksa, for his part, extended deepest appreciation for the cooperation and mutual support between Sri Lanka and the Philippines in multilateral venues, including at the United Nations Human Rights.
Migrant workers employed by a Malaysian palm oil giant have faced mistreatment ranging from physical abuse to poor living conditions, according to a rights group on Wednesday. 101 Corporation is the latest producer of the commodity to face such allegations, and it follows the U.S. banning imports from two other Malaysian palm oil firms over abuse claims. The latest allegations come in a report by rights group Finwatch, which has for several years been documenting problems at 101, or IOI, a supplier to consumer giants, including Nestle and Unilever. The Finland-based group, which focuses on corporate responsibility, interviewed Indian workers at the palm oil estate in central Pahang State. The workers complained of the accommodation that was poor, with some forced to sleep on the floor as they weren't given beds, and toilets and kitchens in bad conditions, according to the report. Workers were also given beds after Finwatch complained. A staff member is alleged to have slapped workers. Some complained of paying hefty recruitment fees in breach of the company's policies, and they weren't given copies of their employment contracts, according to the group. Finwatch said some problems had been rectified after they were raised, but the complaints highlighted gaps in the group's wider recruitment and wage policies. Palm oil is a common ingredient in items ranging from processed foods to cosmetics, with Malaysia and neighboring Indonesia producing 85% of its world's supply. But activists have long claimed that low-paid migrant workers on plantations face abuse and also blame the industry for driving destruction of rainforests to make way for agricultural estates.
A scaled-back version of the world's biggest mobile telecommunications fair got underway Monday in Spain under tight virus controls, with top firms avoiding an in-person presence after the pandemic derailed last year's edition. Take a look.
Showing leadership. We're the first industry to shut down in February of 2020, 12th of February, and now we're the first show to open up in a major scale, and we're doing it in a safe business way, which is we're very proud of. I think we can also see businesses now being created, and we've had a phenomenal amount of 5G networks rolled out during these past 3 years. Last time we were in Barcelona in February 2019, there were 3 live 5G networks, 3. Now there is 160 live 5G networks in 60 countries. So it's a massive movement forward. And for GSMA, not only is this a very proud moment, but it's also a way for us to continue to experiment and explore the hybrid version of events. We believe firmly that big scale events will come back, and the virtual element will be a complement. And I think you can see that here today. We have 300 keynote speakers. Two-thirds of them are here physically, so 200, 100 online. We have full of hand sanitation, we have face mask, we have social distancing, we have one-way system. It's a complete touchless environment. Everything is on your mobile phone. You need to fill out a health declaration form every morning, and you will not let in on any event into the Fira if you do not have a valid pass. Entering into the event, we have something called Breeze, which is a facial recognition that it's voluntary, but it's again one of those things that makes it completely touchless. The quality of the show, I would argue, is exactly the same, because the number of CEOs participating is roughly the same, the ratio is the same. We have 143 countries and regions present here at the show, which is very strong. We have a ministerial program.
The event, which is usually held in February, is taking place this year, both in person at Barcelona's main conference center, as well as digitally, with an online appearance by tech billionaire Elon Musk on Tuesday among the highlights. Participants will only be allowed into the Congress if they have a negative COVID-19 test result, which is less than 72 hours old, and will have to sign a daily declaration that they are in good health. Once inside, they must wear medical-grade FFP2 face masks at all times, and lighter surgical masks are not allowed, and follow a one-way walking system, although arrows on the floor indicating which direction to follow were largely ignored. Organizers have limited attendance to 50,000 as part of virus control measures, compared with a normal attendance of around 100,000. Unlike in other years, no major phone maker is scheduled to present a new flagship device at the event, although some smaller Chinese firms unveiled new devices. Samsung held a virtual event on Monday evening to showcase its recently redesigned interface for its line of Galaxy smartwatches. The Congress comes as global smartphone sales are rebounding after slumping in 2020 due to the economic havoc caused by the pandemic.
Meanwhile, billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk said he plans to invest up to $30 billion to develop his ambitious Starlink satellite internet service. Starlink plans to deploy thousands of low-orbit satellites to provide high-speed internet to isolated and poorly connected areas. It has so far deployed over 1,500 satellites, and by August, it'll be able to provide coverage everywhere in the world except the North and South Poles, Musk told the Mobile World Congress, a telecoms industry conference underway in Barcelona by video. Mr. Musk said Starlink is currently operating in about a dozen countries, with more being added, and it currently has just over 69,000 active users. He said Starlink could help telecom firms meet rural connectivity requirements contained in licenses for the new super-fast 5G cellular networks, which are being deployed around the world.
Be back with more stories.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back to the news. American legend Serena Williams dreams of winning an 8th Wimbledon singles title and equaling Margaret Court's Grand Slam record of 24 and ended in tears on Tuesday. The 39-year-old was leading 3-1 in the first set of her first round match against Alexandra Sasnovich of Belarus when she slipped and had to have off-court medical attention. She returned but called it quits at 3-3 and walked off center court in tears. It is the first time in 20 appearances that Williams has bowed out in the first round of Wimbledon. Williams, who also had strapping on her right thigh, has not won a slam since 2017 Australian Open. Earlier, Swiss legend Roger Federer and Australia's world number 1 Ashley Barty both progressed, but only after overcoming scares. They at least were able to play to their schedule due to the roof on center court, but those on the outside courts had to kick their heels for several hours because of the rain. As a result, 27 singles matches had to be deferred to Wednesday, and men's doubles matches will be the best of 3 sets in the first and second rounds as organizers try to get the schedule back on track. Federer arrived on the back of a disappointing second round exit at Halle, a tournament he all but owns, having won it 10 times, but said he was pumped up for Wimbledon. The 39-year-old 8-time champion looked to be more deflated than pumped up when he trailed Frenchman Adrien Manarino by 2-1. However, already a breakup in the fourth and looking more like the Federer of old, the match turned when Manarino tumbled towards the end of the fourth set. His fall was at the same end of center court, which was also to claim Williams. His 33rd birthday turned into a nightmare as he had to retire at 6-4, 6-3, or 3-7, 3-6, and 6-2.
Now, Greece has recovered a Picasso painting personally donated by the Spanish master to the Greek people almost a decade after it was stolen, alongside two other artworks in an audacious haste at the National Gallery. Head of a woman gifted by Pablo Picasso to Greece in 1949 was recovered in Keratea, a rural area some 45 kilometers southeast of Athens. And take a look.
Πολύ μεγάλη επιτυχία με την ανάκτηση των πινάκων του Πικασό και του Μοντριάν. Στη νέα πινακοθήκη θα έχουν τη θέση που τους αξίζει.
The gasp here in the studio when that Picasso painting fell off that ledge.
That was an audacious robbery. They said it was, it was done in 7 minutes. They took the paintings.
Wow.
Two other ones. Yeah.
I can only imagine the elated faces of those who discovered it and recovered that painting. Well, that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm CJ Hero. We'll see you again tomorrow.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we live in interesting
times.
This program is supported by Protect Plus Gold, a broad-spectrum disinfectant, kills 99.9% of disease-causing germs and works in 10 minutes.
In good shape. Do's and don'ts that will help you stay fit for the rest of your life. We answer the question, what do our bodies really need?